Okay. We hope you can join us next week when we watch whatever Thomas has selected. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Gee.
This stuff's easy.
Yeah, that was a nice short episode. Good.
There is no way that we can put that at the start of an episode.
Oh, isn't there? Roll the tape.
Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me as always is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to?
The biggest Australian election of the month was on Saturday. The one in Brisbane.
For a city council.
Yeah. The one which is, 2 times the size of our state.
Good.
Yeah, and that
happened.
That happened, and wasn't really much movement either way.
No.
The Liberals still very much control that council.
Yep, they do.
And at the end of this week, we're going to a state election.
We are.
After which the Liberals will probably control the state parliament.
Oh, it's a worry.
Yeah.
I must confess.
I have made no progress on trying to explain it to anyone here.
No.
And I think largely everyone has gotten into the swing of working things out for themselves.
Yeah, and realising that lots of pork has been stuffed in barrels and rolled everywhere.
Yeah.
Good. That doesn't explain what you've been up to.
No, what I've been up to is I watched Fargo.
Well, do we ask?
And the note that I've made here is that any film that makes my jaw or my head hurt just a little from mirth must be a good one.
There is some mirth in it.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. This is an absolute farce.
It is. It's Fargo. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, and at some point in the future, I'll watch the TV show. Because there still is a TV show.
There still is a TV show.
Yeah, 5 seasons, anthology.
Oh, it's got up to... it's...
Yeah, 5 seasons, so each of the seasons is set in a different time period.
Oh, okay.
In the Minnesota, North Dakota, that sort of area.
Right, okay. So a bit like Midsummer then.
Yes, much like the film Fargo, much of Fargo, the TV series, does not take place in Fargo, North Dakota.
No, it doesn't. You keep on saying things that you were planning to do and that other people are doing.
Yeah.
But so far, out of you, we have got... You watched Fargo, the movie.
Yeah, and that was it.
Oh, no, there is something else that goes along with what I did this week.
Right.
And it's very early on in this week, as opposed to last week, was the setting up of the editing buttons.
Oh, yes. Which was a whole... It was a whole thing.
It really was.
Yeah.
For something that was meant to be making things easier compared to the software that is supposed to be used that I still haven't received from the eBay seller, who is just an on-seller and had no idea, basically, so that they were, stay tuned, I'll get in contact with our supplier. So still no word.
So yeah, find an open source replacement for that software. And it doesn't quite work on the laptop.
It is some really weird things.
Yeah.
That being said, my laptop it's not behaving itself in many ways, and some of it is inexplicable. And I think it is well due for a complete reinstall of Windows, which I'm not looking forward to.
Nope.
Because I can guarantee that even though I will back up everything, there will be this one particular thing that I will go, oh, after I've wiped everything, that I'll realise that, oh, I didn't get this or I didn't do that and I really should have, and oh, woe is me. But yes.
So the software, open it up on the laptop, can't find any of the buttons that make it record.
And I should point out that I couldn't find any of the buttons, and I thought, I'm going crazy here.
So I had a look at it, and I realised that if you full screen it and drag up a bar, then you can see the box where the recorded buttons live, but not the button that actually makes it record.
My poor eyesight would not let me see that bar.
No, well, it was invisible. It was an invisible bar. It was in a logical place.
Yeah.
Where you would expect it to be draggable, but no. So you couldn't see the button that made it record, and so brought it over to my computer.
Because all I needed was the buttons to be set, and once they're set on the machine, it doesn't rely on any software on the machine. So
it takes HID in and then stores that, and then sends HID out.
Yep.
And that's simple enough. So I drag it over, and I work out how to do the thing, and so I do the thing, but I spend a lot of time trying to look into if there is any other better way. And it turns out that unless I want to go through the rigmarole of coding it myself, no, there isn't.
No, from what I can tell is this guy had someone buy one of these things and said, look, I can't get this software. It's so he knocked something together, which was better. As far as I can tell, not having the original to compare it to, but from all I can tell from other people's comments, it is still far better than what gets sent, or which is invariably a link to a Google Drive, which has who knows how much malware buried inside it. So yes, the end result is that I now have a little 9-button 2-dial keyboard that has all of the keys that I use for editing all in one spot where I don't have to move my hand. I just need to move my fingers.
Now, dear listener, you might be hearing 2 knobs and be thinking, oh, can you scroll back and forth in the playback with that? No, because it turns out that this open source replacement just doesn't really want to do scrolling.
And that's fine. I'm using my right hand for the mouse, and I'm using my left hand for the buttons, and it's doing. What was interesting is that I drew a map for Thomas as to what I wanted on each of the keys. By the end of finishing editing, which did go quicker, it definitely went quicker, but by the end of editing, I had twisted the keyboard around. So my hands were doing things completely different to what I'd thought was the logical layout.
Right.
So it's a bit like footpaths that go a certain way, and then you've got a trail going through the grass where people actually logically walk because it makes more sense. So editing went a lot smoother last week. I went to see Dunny number 2.
Right.
Yes, which will mean nothing to you because you haven't seen Dunny number 1.
Nope. Never seen a toilet.
No.
What's a toilet?
It was very impressive. Yes, I would do my number 2s in that dunny. If anything, it really felt like he had filmed a whole heap more that I wanted to see, which he's not going to let us see, supposedly. The director is very much of the opinion that this is the decisions that I made, we shall all live with it. But there were parts of the story where I really felt something happened between that and that point that I would have loved to have seen and couldn't. So even though it's over 2.5 hours long, I would have been happy with an extra hour, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's certainly dense as far as storyline is concerned. I have not read the books, so I'm not encumbered by, and I do mean that, there's absolutely no way I'm going to get through any of the books. I've tried. Too many people, too many plot lines, too many walking through the desert type of stuff that quite obviously a lot of people get very, 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 very excited and distraught when it is done differently to in the books. So don't have to deal with that. It really, I wanted it to be longer.
Right.
Even if it meant splitting the second movie into two and getting more world building. There were places in it that I just wanted more. What I got was absolutely amazing and absolutely wonderful. I'm really keen to go and watch it again. I know that one of the kids at least is wanting to see it, so I'll do that fairly soon. But I've got really nothing else, I don't think, to talk about. So let's get into what we're watching today. What is it that we're watching today?
We are watching a film that comes in what I would not describe as a standard DVD case, but is
a standard DVD case for the US of the era.
Right.
Yes, it is a US import, and I just realised that last week, jumping all tradition, I did not read the plot synopsis because I didn't want to give anything away to Thomas. And now I've handed him.
You've handed it.
I've handed him the case, and he's now going to read the plot synopsis and ruin it for himself.
Yeah, apparently there are murders in this film.
Oh, yes, a bunch of crows. Good. All right, Thomas. You can
The
read
mission was a sham. The crows were real.
You can read the plot synopsis, and then I'll have to kill you.
Oh.
Yeah.
With crows?
With crows.
Yeah.
Stowing the flaming crows.
Okay. This all looks like a synopsis.
Good.
It's great.
Go on. You can do it. Unless you don't want to. Don't spoil it for yourself. You've already read it.
What? I'm going to read it aloud now.
Okay.
What if one of the greatest space adventures was really a hoax? The whole world is watching the first manned flight to Mars prepare. Suddenly, its astronauts are taken from the craft to an abandoned desert hangar where NASA's director tells them their life support systems have failed. Because the mission's success is crucial to future space programs, he orders them to take part in a simulated Martian landing as cameras roll. If they refuse, their families will be harmed. The phony flight goes well until an uninformed NASA technician spots a computer discrepancy. He mentions it to a reporter friend, who smells a story and starts to investigate. When their rocket disintegrates and the world thinks them dead, the astronauts realise their lives are in danger. They escape and separate, hoping one will survive to expose the sensational fraud. It sounds like I've just read the whole plot of the film.
I know, that's why I didn't... that's why I didn't read it last week, and then I'd forgotten that I didn't read it last week. Okay, so I'll tell you how it ends, and then we can wrap up this podcast. Or we can watch the film. It's up to you. What would you rather do?
I mind spoilers so little that I will actively spoil myself during the watching of a movie.
Okay, we shall watch the film, and then we'll come back and we shall talk about it. So we'll catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B, if there is a side B.
Yes. Who knows if anybody survives? You mongrel. So what did you think?
That film is bloated.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yes, it is so overly long. It just spends too long on each of its halves.
Right.
And it's just sort of okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was dreading bringing this to the table because it is very much a favourite of mine from my late teenage years, maybe early 20s. It sort of got high rotation, and then I hadn't watched it for years. And then, as I told last week, I managed to get a, in quotes, widescreen version of it. but I was dreading how it would come across to a modern audience. And you've just shown how it came across. Yeah. I mean, my other fear was that I would watch it and not enjoy it, but I loved it.
Uh-huh.
I loved it with a whole heap of caveats. You know, my notes basically consist of how bad it is in places. But pacing and lengthwise, I didn't have a problem with it. And maybe that's got something to do with me having sat through a over 2.5 hour movie yesterday, which is paced very slowly and methodically. So,
well, I can sort of take slow pacing if there's things that matter.
Ow.
And that couldn't be cut.
Ow.
And I feel like there are parts of this film that don't need to be in there.
Okay. Right. Okay. I shall take that on board. Your wrong opinions and
great. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, teenagers are allowed to be wrong.
You're putting yourself in teenage category.
Young people are allowed to be wrong.
It's been a number of years since you were a teen.
It has.
Quite a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
So, I'm going to go through my notes here. Very early on in the piece, there is a scene where a van pulls up, drops people off, and then drives off.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was filmed, obviously there was a great deal of delay between the vehicle stopping, the people getting out, and then the vehicle driving off.
Yeah.
And so they cut.
A guy gets on and shuts the door, and there is very obviously a cut there.
Yes, but it happened when they arrived as well.
Right.
Yes. So the vehicle pulled up, and then it wasn't as obvious, but it did jump then. So I became hyper aware of watching whether it would happen again when it drove off, and it certainly did. So they did trim bits out of it, superfluous bits, and they sped up things to make it go faster.
Yeah.
There were certain vehicle incidents where a vehicle was supposedly going very, very fast, and they emphasised that by speeding up the film quite considerably and quite obviously.
And yet, I would say that is one of the bits of the film that it needed less of. Because, in spite of speeding it up considerably, it still goes on for some time.
Again, reflecting on my memories of this film, I really did like that segment of the film, and my appreciation for it was only lessened somewhat by the now extremely obvious sped up bits. But the length and pacing of that, I did not have a problem with. So there. No.
I have some notes.
Okay, right. You throw something in, and
when
I'll say you're wrong.
I have two whole notes.
Two whole notes.
And
middle
one of
C,
and one of them's right at the end. So,
well,
it's funny you mention that, because the first of my notes is that when the re-entry craft experiences problems, catastrophic problems, and the heart rate monitors all go flatline,
yep,
and form a chord, which is added to by buzzers and bells, and that's actually really neat.
Yeah,
that's a really neat piece of sound design and sound tracking.
Yep,
that I liked. That's my positive note.
Good. It did have a good soundtrack all up, a good early Jerry Goldsmith soundtrack that got the heart rate going or stopping.
Yeah.
They did constantly emphasise the fact that there was a long delay between Mars and Earth. And then they have a conversation between their wives and the...
It's sort of unclear to me at what stage that is supposed to be.
Yeah, so it could be, in quotes, like a lot closer to Earth.
I'm pretty sure that is on their way back. But we're in their way back.
Okay.
So the one nitpick that you've written down is...
The necklace,
Mm-hmm.
the medallion-type necklace. Whose was that was picked up?
That was Brubaker's.
And it was the same necklace that was used to open the door?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to fathom how that necklace ended up where it was found.
Yeah. Not sure.
The exit route that they took was not quite through the studio, I didn't think.
Yeah.
But
They did tear down the studio afterwards,
that is
but
true.
not that soon.
No. I loved the Fox and Socks scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was possibly one that you didn't appreciate because it was very slow-paced, but I got quite teary during that scene. As for the talking helicopters, they would always face each other when they're obviously having a conversation, and then they'd dip their heads and, okay, let's do this. I laugh at that, but it is also a very fond memory as to the menacingness of those helicopters, those faceless helicopters that had faceless pilots in them. There was certainly some mirth and merriment from other audience members who found that quite irritating. But again, I am still clutching my nostalgia for this film, I think. So I'm forgiving.
Are you out of notes?
I am out of notes.
You are out of notes. My last note, right at the end, how slow do you want to crank that footage?
I think if you're planning to end a film with slowed down footage, that you should possibly film normal pace at a far faster frame rate. Because slowing down 24 frames a second quickly becomes ridiculous. Yeah. And it did reach that.
And they had high frame rate cameras for the landing, in air quotes.
And hit slow motion.
Clearly they had the technology.
Yeah.
They didn't use it here. I think at one stage we were going at a frame a second.
It was a creative decision. I'm sure of it.
And then the frame rate became 1. And stayed 1 for some time, actually.
Yeah. I thought it was a good ending too. It ended at the right place in the story.
Oh,
in that there's so much that's going to go down now.
For sure. That scene might have worked for me if I was not looking at the frames individually.
Oh dear. So you don't have anything else to say about this?
Not really.
No.
It's just sort of okay. The plot is okay. Mm-hmm. The acting is okay.
Okay. We ignore the elephant in the room, which is O.J. Simpson, who is possibly the reason why this film is so hard to get these days, because we don't touch O.J. anymore.
He doesn't really do much in the film anyway, does he?
No, he doesn't.
No. We have the wisecracker, and we have the leader, and we have O.J. Simpson's character who, like, at one point questions whether they should be blowing the whole thing wide open, and then they don't blow the whole thing wide open, so...
Yeah.
And then does nothing else in the rest of the film.
No, he doesn't do a lot.
He runs in one direction, becomes dehydrated, and is picked up by helicopters.
The end.
We don't know. We don't know what happens to the other two.
That's right. We do not know. I'm sure they're fine. They're just resting. All right. Well, if you have nothing else to say about this film,
yeah,
I think my gushingness tells our audience that I'm sticking to my guns here, and it is a favourite, and it continues to be a favourite, and I'm glad that I've got a slightly better copy of it. It was still watching a DVD on a large screen. Mm-hmm. And then zooming in, it certainly showed certain DVD qualities.
And some, not a great transfer.
Not a very good transfer either, no. And the audio was a bit mushy too.
I think one of the reels had like a very obvious black smudge on the right side of the frame. Mm-hmm. That was not good. Yeah,
and some of the masking of the top of the letterbox was fairly average because there were bits of dust along the top of the screen in a couple of shots. But Yeah.
You do what you can with what you
do
have.
what you can with what you have. Yeah. All right, then. We shall move on, then.
The following segment has no title. Thank you. And we will start in Google Docs with Thomas.
You've written a novel here.
I'm mostly just
Yeah.
refreshing my memory about what I want to talk about.
Okay.
It's a follow-up to a previous episode.
Indeed.
The one on the Wes Anderson Roald Dahl shorts a few weeks back. The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar won the Oscar for Best Short. And possibly in response, but I suspect they had it lined up in the background.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely just in case this happens. Let's.
They have re-released the collection of 4 shorts as one feature-length film, which is presented...
Oh, I didn't realise it was one feature length.
Yes.
Right,
yes,
okay.
As 1 hour-and-a-half long film that compiles...
Huh. I don't know whether I'm happy with that. I guess Wes Anderson must be.
It has intertitles with... It is almost exactly the same if you were to watch it through, except that there's intertitles for each of the films.
Yep.
Like, it says, "To the Swan."
Hey, we ended up watching them out of order anyway,
Yeah,
so...
we watched them backwards.
Yes.
It is presented as though it was a series of telefilms produced 4 and a bit decades ago. And not seen since.
Supposedly, roughly the same year that today's movie came out.
Right.
Mm.
And ends with credits, over which is played a presentation of Roald Dahl's 7 qualities you should possess or should try to acquire if you wish to become a fiction writer, which were originally published with The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar and 8 more. So that's interesting. I've not watched the whole thing through. I was just sort of wanting to see if there'd been any sort of extra trappings around it, but other than the top and tail, there's not really any new material in there.
Yep.
And that is it from Thomas on Google Docs.
Excellent.
Over on Discord, Entuosferatu.
Hi, Entuosferatu.
I have a 14-year-old who has likely heard far worse in middle school.
Yes.
And probably would get bored and wander away / put on a podcast with headphones anyway.
Uh-huh.
And as of noon yesterday, an 18-year-old, full-on grown adult. I don't know how this could have happened.
No.
No, it's impossible to know how any of this happened.
Things as I've apparently still got my eldest is still a teenager.
Oh dear, what have I done to myself?
I really don't know. He does have a good point as far as middle school. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That being said, there are, within the hour and a half of Fargo, 73 uses of the F word.
Yeah.
And I don't think, certainly even in the roughest of people that I've spent any time with, certainly doesn't have that level of count. And I suspect if there was that level of count in a schoolyard lunch hour...
Oh, yeah. Steve Buscemi can
certainly
really...
can. Yes. And he's probably responsible for 95% of those 76 or so. Certainly all of our kids are in a situation with being exposed to such language. But basically, my wife doesn't like the word. I don't like the word, but live with it. But
I am indifferent to the word.
Yes. There is possibly one word that I dislike way, way more and just cringe. Anyway.
Is it one of those ones that is also quintessentially Australian?
Yeah, pretty much so, yes.
Yeah.
All right. What else have we got here?
What else have we got here? What we have here is still on Discord. Eve Pie.
Hi, Eve Pie.
Says in response to the change of film, a surprise but a fairly explicable one, I think. Still, when a podcast calls an audible, it's really audible. Or perhaps it's Spotifyable. Further investigation required. And then there's a conversation that we will get back to when we get to the guesses.
Right.
Over on Twitter, Angel.
Hi, Angel.
says, nearly got kicked out of the school library whilst listening to this podcast. I was listening on relatively low volume, and when Thomas turned on the lights, this incredibly holy harmony played and almost blared from my computer. I had gotten odd stares.
And Thomas would be totally oblivious and therefore had to listen to the entire podcast to find out what you were talking about.
No, I didn't. I just assumed it was talking about the pling from the...
No.
No. Great.
No. I added some audible effects.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should probably mention that this is in no way an issue with the podcast. The computer just switched where the audio output was coming from without my knowledge.
Ouch. Nothing worse in school libraries to have things like that happen. Reminds me of a good friend who would always pick a very quiet moment in the library when everyone's heads are down reading and call out something entirely inappropriate just to break the silence. I apologise for breaking the silence.
Over on YouTube, Dunkel.
Hi, Dunkel.
Against my own bets, I haven't seen any BFDI in a hot minute. Dunkel is someone who, in the past, has done some amount of animation for BFDI.
Right, okay.
Circumstances transpired and people have shuffled around and she doesn't anymore, but that's alright.
Yep.
Oneros is a thing that strikes me with fear occasionally, especially in low sec.
Yes.
So Oneros will be obliquely referencing the title of that BFDI episode that came out last week, Onerophobe's Nightmare.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, Oneros is a ship from the video game EVE Online.
Yep.
And low sec refers to low security, as in low security star systems.
I nod knowingly in that when you copy and pasted Dunkel's comment, I Googled and found the EVE Online thing, but the connection going back to the episode now makes sense. Yeah.
She continues. Theme, plasma, apostrophe.
It's Themes. It's Themes, I tell you.
What? There are already 3 likes? I guess this must be one of the best episodes ever. If not, I'll demand an arbitrary refund.
You've been beaten. Usurped.
Well, your arbitrary refund is for 0 cents.
It's on its way.
Yep.
It's in the mail.
I bought 2010 for a friend, but still haven't seen it.
You're going to have to track that friend down.
Yeah.
Sit down and watch that sucker. You just...
Yep.
Yep.
Which will bring us to the guesses.
Right.
I think we will start with Angel, who guessed rated R, which is certainly a reasonable guess.
That is a very good guess.
If we were in the United States of America. Alas, here in Australia, Fargo is rated MA15+. Which doesn't really fit.
It doesn't fit.
No. And as such, it is an incorrect guess.
Unfortunately. Sorry, Angel.
Dunkel said Word Owl, W-I-R-D-A-L. Interesting that this guess is guessing some unknown word of presumed length. Is what she would have guessed if she'd skipped the end. And then she guessed swears.
A very good guess.
Spelt as you'd expect. S-W-E-A-R-S. A very good guess.
Very good guess.
And we'll come back to it.
Yes.
Entosferatu says, we will see if anyone gets it, but I'll take a wild guess and say sweary, which is very similar.
Oh, it is very similar.
Not a single F in the word sweary. E of Pi, after this, pipes in with a protest on a matter of honour. I do my best not to click the spoiler tags if another guess is up before I make mine, and if there is one and my reflexes betray me and I click it by accident, as happened in the week in which I'm making this comment, it is very easy. You click it and it shows up.
Yep.
I do the honourable thing and don't enter a guess. I'm sure anyone in this unit would do the same for me.
Yes.
To which Nosferatu replies, "If I win, I will share my imaginary point with you."
Now, that protest on a matter of honour, I believe was referring to last week.
Yes.
And I would like to play the version that played in the podcast from last week right now.
Presumably, he didn't even look at it before.
I'm sure he didn't.
No.
So everyone guessed, and point out that I edited it slightly for length reasons. And hopefully, when I play back the original recording, you'll realise that we did not question at all your integrity. And this is how it sounded when it was recorded.
Presumably, he didn't even look at it before.
I'm sure he didn't.
No.
Being completely honest, and did not look. Good. So everyone guessed. So for completeness, I hope your honour is intact. We appreciate your guesses and would not suggest for a moment that any of our dear listeners would cheat in any way.
Now, you say as it was recorded, but you're probably going to have to throw on some sort of filter to distinguish it from the rest of this podcast.
Yes.
Because this, what we're saying right now, it could be part of that same recording.
That is true.
It seems unlikely.
It is.
Could be. E.F. Pye then continues, "I'm not sure that would have been my guess, but it seems quite reasonable. Now that I have seen it, making my reasoning suspect. Best of luck." And so E.F. Pye has ruled himself out of the running for this particular episode. So we've ruled out Angels rated R.
We have.
Which leaves us with Dunkel's Swears and Nosferatu's Sweary.
Two very similar. And which way did I go?
S-W-E-A-R.
Why?
I don't know, you tell me.
I don't know either. Well done, Nosferatu. Sorry, Dunkel, I did go for Sweary.
Yeah.
Which brings us to an interesting situation.
Yeah.
Capricorn 1. That's what we watched today. How did I crunch Capricorn 1, or the essence of Capricorn 1, into 6 letters?
Bearing in mind that we are dealing with an alphanumeric input.
Yes, I can put letters, I can put numbers, I can't put symbols or hyphens or...
And it has to be 6 characters or less.
It does. So, get your guesses in. This could be an interesting one.
You could.
We only had one winner this week. Will we have any winners next week? Who is to say? It is not me.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
Enter the usual places. Links are in the show notes. Yeah, let's move on.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
And it's your turn.
It is my turn. And, you know, a thing came up on Netflix. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Okay.
This film is pretty recent.
Right.
Like, last year recent. And it stars Jason Schwartzman and Scarlett Johansson and Tom Hanks and Jeffrey Wright and Tilda Swinton and Bryan Cranston and Edward Norton and Adrian Brody and Liev Schreiber and Hope Davis and Stephen Park.
This is ringing bells, and I'm not putting any... okay. Give me more information.
It's directed by someone who's come up in this episode.
Right. Okay. Brains mush.
And I don't know that I can say more without just saying what it is.
Okay, tell us what it is.
It is...
Or you could start reading the plot synopsis, and then I'll buzz in. There we go.
In a TV show about a play about a town, a group of brainy teens and their world-weary parents attend a stargazing event at an asteroid landing site.
Right, got you. Yes, I've actually added that to my want-to list. It has only just hit Netflix, hasn't it? Yes. Okay. Bzzzt. Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. Is that what it's called? Asteroid...
Yes, it is called Asteroid City.
Right, good. You give me this look and I go, you got it wrong.
No, I'm sorry, it is called Meteor Village.
We're watching Meteor Village next week. Sorry, please do go on with the plot synopsis.
No, that's it. That's all it says on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good old short Netflix plot synopsis. I wonder what they would do with the plot synopsis of Capricorn 1. I suspect not give so much away.
Yeah.
That's why you didn't enjoy it. That's why.
No.
You already knew what was going to happen.
No, that has almost never been a factor in my enjoyment of any film.
Well, dear listener, next week, more Wes Anderson. Oh, please, not more Wes Anderson. Yes, more Wes Anderson with the recently released on Netflix, Asteroid City. We hope that you can join us, but until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
This description of Capricorn 1 on Just Watch is just misleading.
Is it?
It says that the crusading reporter helps all of them to battle a sinister conspiracy.
Oh, no. Right.
Which
good.
I don't think is quite right.
They tend to get their plot synopsises from IMDb.
Yeah, I suspect this will be an
mostly.
IMDb thing. Hold on. Wait, no. There's
click
a
on the
tiny
link
link
on-
there.
there
There's a
is.
tiny link.
Very tiny, but it does work.
Not that synopsis. Because you see, IMDb is
Has
just a wiki, and so...
500 different plot synopsises.
Load.
Ready.
Load.
Run.
Load. It's
like-
just 3 dots. That's not a synopsis.
Could be. I think I need to make a film that has a plot synopsis of 3 dots. What is that? Is that an ellipsis?
That's an ellipsis, yeah.
Yeah. Call the film
It's
Ellipsis.
not that one.
There we
It's
go.
not that one. It's not that one. It's not that
Check
one.
IMDb whether there's a film called Ellipsis.
See, that's more correct. However, the plan is compromised when an ambitious journalist discovers the conspiracy. That's correct.
Oh, there is a film called Ellipsis.
Oh dear. Nope, doesn't look like this is a plot summary that anyone has provided on IMDb.
Wonder where it came from then.
Dunno.
Oh, I better stop recording here.
Yeah, probably.
Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me, as always, is my...
Uh-huh. Yeah, and how's that going for you?
Shut up.